In a vast central kingdom of medieval Europe, there lived a young and beautiful girl named Elizabeth. She lived with her parents and two younger brothers on a rural farm near the border, far from the cities. Their life followed the rhythm of the sun, working at dawn and resting at dusk. Beside their home stood a towering mountain that seemed to reach the clouds. Beyond the mountain lay a vast grassland, where, it was said, a group of nomadic tribes lived. These people were rumored to be rough, fierce, skilled in riding and archery, and extremely formidable. They rarely had any contact with the central kingdom, except for a few traders who traveled between the two regions. These traders would bring furs, dairy products, and livestock from the grasslands to the kingdom's markets, and in return, they carried salt and cloth back across the mountain. Elizabeth had always been curious about what lay beyond the mountain. She often dreamed of running across the endless grassland, seeing flocks of white sheep under a blue sky, and witnessing warriors galloping on horseback. Her parents, however, constantly warned her to abandon such thoughts. They told her the other side of the mountain was a savage world, where barbarians would tear out and eat the hearts of civilized people. Her friends were frightened by these stories. Whenever Elizabeth suggested secretly following the traders across the mountain, they would run away in fear, shouting, "One day you'll be eaten by the barbarians." Only her two younger brothers were willing to share her sense of adventure. One day, Elizabeth's parents left to visit relatives in the city, instructing her to take care of the house and her brothers. They would return the next evening. That day happened to be market day. After their parents left, Elizabeth and her brothers went to the market and secretly followed a group of traders heading toward the mountain. The traders rode ahead, the bells around their horses' necks jingling. Elizabeth and her brothers followed at a distance. They passed through dark forests, crossed streams, climbed steep rocky paths, and finally emerged from a mountain pass. Before them lay a breathtaking sight. The golden sunlight bathed an endless green grassland, dotted with wild horses grazing peacefully. Overjoyed, the three of them stopped following the traders and ran straight toward the grassland. Elizabeth ran ahead, laughing, feeling as if she had been there before, just like in her dreams. Suddenly, she stepped into a swamp. Half her body sank into the muddy water. She grabbed at tall grass nearby, trying to pull herself out, but she kept sinking. Her brothers rushed over, frozen in terror. One of them tried to help, but Elizabeth shouted for him to stop. "You're too small. Go back and find help. If you can't bring adults before sunset, don't come back. Tell father and mother I love them." Her voice broke. Crying, her brothers hesitated briefly before running back toward the mountain. Elizabeth clung desperately to the grass. When it broke, she grabbed roots and mud. Time passed. She continued to sink. The sun set. Darkness fell. The water reached her neck. Terrified, she dug her fingers into the mud, ignoring the pain, struggling upward. Her sinking slowed. She gasped for air and screamed for help. But no one came. Night fell completely. The temperature dropped. Her hands grew numb from the cold. Moisture froze on her face. Her body temperature dropped, and her consciousness faded. In despair, she sighed toward the mountain and closed her eyes. As she was about to lose consciousness completely, she felt her hands slip away. Her body sank into the cold swamp. Water filled her mouth. She could no longer resist. At that moment, a tall young man leaped into the water and grabbed her. He had a rope tied to his arm, the other end fastened to a horse. Struggling to keep his head above water, he shouted to the horse. The horse backed away, pulling them out of the swamp. Soon, they were dragged onto solid ground. The young man shook Elizabeth, calling out to her. Realizing she was not from the grasslands, he switched to the language of the Central Kingdom, trying to wake her. He turned her onto her side and patted her back. After much effort, Elizabeth finally coughed up water and began breathing, though she was still trembling and unable to open her eyes. The young man quickly lit a fire using tools and dried dung. He helped her sit by the fire. Seeing her shivering, he hesitated, then took out a large sheepskin. He removed his wet clothes, held her in his arms, and wrapped both of them together in the sheepskin. Under the starry sky, He looked at her face illuminated by the firelight and unconsciously held her tighter. Gradually, Elizabeth's body warmed. Her breathing steadied. She opened her eyes slightly, saw the handsome young man, and then, too exhausted, fell asleep again in his arms. The next morning, they woke in the misty grassland. Elizabeth, now fully awake, panicked and pulled away from him. "Who are you? What did you do to me?" The young man quickly dressed and calmly explained everything. He had been tending horses nearby when he heard her cries and rescued her. To keep her warm, he had no choice but to use his body heat. He introduced himself as Alaric, the son of the chief of the largest tribe in the grasslands. He had visited the kingdom's markets and learned their language. Elizabeth blushed and told him her story. Alaric explained that the grasslands were full of swamps, and strangers unfamiliar with the terrain could easily fall into danger. He added that she was lucky not to fall into larger swamps filled with crocodiles. Elizabeth stepped back in fear and thanked him again. Soon, voices echoed from the mountain, villagers searching for her. Alaric reminded her to stay safe, mounted his horse, and disappeared into the mist. Elizabeth ran back and reunited with her brothers and villagers. They returned home safely. That night, her parents scolded her but were relieved she was safe. They forbade her from ever going to the grasslands again. She agreed, but in her heart, she could not forget Alaric. She often sat by the window, lost in thought, longing to see him again. She imagined him telling stories of the grasslands, riding horses together, walking hand in hand, even embracing and kissing. She realized she had fallen in love with him. Days later, her father was bitten by a venomous snake. A priest said there was no cure, except perhaps from the nomadic tribes. Without hesitation, Elizabeth ran toward the mountain again. She crossed into the grasslands and called out desperately, but no one answered. As despair consumed her, she called Alaric's name. Still silence. In desperation, she decided to risk her life, jumping into the swamp again to test whether fate would bring him back. Just as she was about to leap, a horse's neigh rang out. Alaric appeared. Overwhelmed, Elizabeth begged him to save her father. Alaric agreed to try. They rode back together at full speed. Alaric treated her father with herbal medicine, drained the poisoned blood, and saved his life. The villagers were amazed. As he prepared to leave, Elizabeth walked him to the door. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. Alaric smiled. She looked at her home, then softly said, "I think of you every day. You were sent by God to save me. I even risked my life to prove it." She kissed his cheek and ran inside. Alaric stood there, smiling. "I think of you every day too," he whispered. "I wait by that swamp. I love you." He lingered for a long time, then rode back toward the mountains.